So we're looking at Lab 4. And so as I've done before, I'm going to start Lab 4 with the solution from Lab 3. And as we're waiting for Power BI to load, what we're going to be doing in Lab 4 with the publishing and the accessing of the reports in the website is we're going to create a mobile view, and then we're going to go ahead and publish the report. So we can start jumping into the Power BI service side. So I've opened the report. Here's what very similar to what we ended up with at the end of the last session, and for Lab 4, actually, we're going to go ahead and use the dyad final report solution since this is what we're publishing. Apologize for that. So we don't need to open the Lab 3 solution or the Lab 2 solution. We're going to go ahead and open the dyad final report. As we wait for the dyad final report to open. Yeah, because this is the final version of the report that we're going to go ahead and upload to the Power BI service, with just some slight tweaks and modifications to it. So here's the final version of the report. It uses the same data set. It's you know, there's been some additional tweaks. The page that we were really working on earlier is this manufacturer analysis page, and as you can see, there's been some slight tweaks to it, some fancier things like our manufacturers are in a flyout, and there's some date slicing possibility there. But so what we want to do is we're going to make a duplicate of the market share tab, or the market share page of the report. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to choose duplicate page. And so just that easy, we now have a second page that is an exact copy of the first. All of the slicers, all of the information, all of that is now available to us on that second page. And the reason that we want to make a second page is some of the color decisions don't work as well in the mobile version. So what we want to do is we want to highlight market analysis, and we want to change the color back to black. And then the reason that we want to do that is if we go then up to the view ribbon, I'm going to click on mobile layout. And so what we have now is a mobile layout view. You don't have as much control over the themes and whatnot because that's controlled through the actual app when somebody's looking at a report through the mobile view. So that's why we needed to change the text box to black so that we could then add, by just dragging over to our mobile layout view, the title of the report right here at the top. And so you can make the sizes kind of what you need them to be for a mobile version of the report. And again, this is how the report layout is going to look when you're using the app on an Android or an iOS device. So let's go ahead and pull market share in, and we'll just set that right there. We can make it a little bit bigger so that it's easy to see. And then let's do percent growth by manufacturer. We can put that alongside market share. I'm going to go ahead and make that just a little bit bigger as well. It's the same kind of formatting controls that you're used to on the main side of the report. You can click and drag and make things bigger or smaller as you feel they should be. If we want Van Arsdale market share to be just a little bit bigger, so now they're kind of side by side. And if we drag revenue by year across, I'm going to set that over here. Let's come down just a little bit more and make that the complete width and just a little bit bigger so that it would be easy to see on a mobile layout. And let's bring the map in. I'm going to make the map, oops, I scrolled up. I'm going to make the map fairly large sized, give us a good opportunity on the phone to look through it, or the tablet. And so we've created the map, and we've created the we've created the mobile layout. We've got our regular, oh, we're still in mobile layout view. Let me unselect mobile layout view. So we've got our regular reports. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and save the file. And we'll give it time to save. So now what we're going to do is we're going to leverage a report that we built in Power BI Desktop, and we're going to create a dashboard inside of Power BI Service. And so everything that we've done up to this point, Power BI Desktop, the free application, you can do everything that you're doing here. As you've been working through it, you'll notice that like when you highlight a visual, it can get a little clunky to click and go through it using the interface of the desktop. And that's because the desktop interface is the designer. One thing to help if you're using the desktop to consume data is to go ahead and lock objects under the view menu, because then you can't accidentally click and drag the way you can if you don't have the objects locked. But it's still a designer, but you can get a lot of data out of it and you can get a lot of information out of it. But again, it's the report designer. The true power of Power BI really rests in the Power BI service. So we're going to go ahead and publish the report at this point. So I happen to be logged in. If you're not logged in, you can, so I'll go ahead and sign out, and I'm going to go ahead and sign back in. And now you can see that I've signed back in. So that's the sign-in process. And I'm logged into the Power BI service. And from the home menu, we go ahead and click on Publish. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask you where you want to publish. And at this point, I'm not going to select anything because I want to take us over to the Power BI service interface. So this is where we did the demo earlier in the day. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at me logged into Power BI. From the home menu, there's a bunch of different reports, and this is a demo account and inside of a demo workspace. But the key things to understand when it comes to publishing is that inside of Power BI, there are workspaces. And the different workspaces are what I was talking about earlier when you can have your Outlook groups or Teams groups. They can all be within a particular workspace. And what we're going to do, if you're following along, is log into the Power BI service. On the left-hand side, under Workspaces, we're going to create a workspace. So I'm going to create this workspace, and I'm going to call it Dyad, because that's what we're working on. And I'm going to put my name in. So I'm doing that just so that the workspace name needs to be unique. It's an easy way to identify that this is the dyad that we're working in, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So now I've created a new workspace inside of Power BI Service. If we jump back over to my dyad final report, we don't see that dyad listed in here. So I'm going to click Cancel, and I'm going to click Publish one more time. This will go up. It'll refresh my list of places that I can publish to. And now I'm going to choose Dyad and my email address as the workspace that I want to publish to. I click select. And so what Power BI is doing right now is it's uploading the PBIX file. It's also uploading all of the data that we've worked with. We massaged it, we manipulated it, we did a bunch of things with the data, and then we pushed that up into Power BI service. Since our data is stored locally, we would need to have a gateway for the service to be able to reach into our machine and upload. The gateways are free as well. There's just a little bit more complexity that goes into them than we'd be able to do inside of this workshop. But if you're needing to pull data from a local data source, you can use the Power BI gateway for that as well. So it's gone ahead and published. And now if I switch back over to Power BI, we can see here that under my workspace, I now have a dyad final report, and its report type, or the type of is report, and I have a dyad final report data set. These are key distinctions, and they get separated out inside of the workspace. So we've got dashboards, we've got reports, we've got workbooks, and we've got data sets. And so if I want to look at my report, I can just click on it, and here's the report that we just worked on. And here are the 3 different slides that we had, pages that we had created. So here's how we published the report, and we published it inside of a workspace. And a lot of times it's easy to think of a workspace as sort of being like a Microsoft Teams team, if you work that, or if you don't have any of those types of applications that you work within, sort of a SharePoint group or anything like that, you can just think of them as being a separate folder. Like each workspace is its own separate entity with its own set of security, its own set of user access. All of that is unique to our particular workspace. So we've created our workspace, and we've named it. Some of the other things, as I'm talking about the security on the workspace, is that if I go to my workspace here, and I click on it, and I'm looking within my workspace, I can look at various settings, so like access settings. Right now, I'm logged in as that service account, but I can add other people as members of this workspace. So I'm going to add my actual self as a member of this workspace. And a member has different security than an admin. It has different security than what the other options are. So you can be an admin, which controls everything. You can be a member, which gives you some access to various things, but you can't really delete stuff. You can be a viewer. That's just a consumer of the workspace, and you can be a contributor. And you can have some control over what those different roles are. But I've gone ahead and added Butch Smith as a member. And then you can also further narrow down security at the report level. You can further narrow down security at the data level. There's a lot of options, and so typically we would work with somebody to get through exactly what specific pieces of data they're trying to provide governance over, and there are many different paths to sort of get there. So we've created our workspace, and we've uploaded our report. We've been able to view our report there. The workspace is where the actual dashboard lives. So we're here doing dashboard in a day. That's what we're trying to get to. What we've built so far is a report. And a report and a dashboard, those a lot of times can be interchangeable when you're talking just sort of in general terms. But when we're talking about Power BI service and we're talking about publishing into Power BI, they have very distinct differences that can help alleviate a lot of confusion if we can keep those straight. So I'm looking at my dyad final report here, and there are things that I want to see that are specific to hold on one second. All right. So we're looking at our report here, and if we look at the duplicate of market share, we can see that we've got a the report, but it isn't the mobile view of the report. And that's something that we would need to access from the actual mobile application itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a dashboard based off of the market share report. So we've clicked on the report, we're looking at our dyad final report, and it's the one that we've just uploaded. And if we look at this map visualization, we've got a new option as we hover over it, which is pin visual. And as we're building our dashboards themselves, that's how we do it. We pin the visuals to the dashboard that exist in a report. So I'm going to create a new dashboard. And I'm going to call it Van Arsdale. And I'm going to tell it to pin. So now it gives us the option to create a phone view here as well, or go to the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and, I didn't click on it before we got there. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and let's just pin a couple of other things that we want to see on there before we go to the dashboard. So I'm going to pin this Van Arsdale market share to the existing dashboard that was already there. And I'm going to pin the revenue by year to the existing dashboard. So now I'm going to go ahead and say go to dashboard. And this is what our dashboard looks like. If you look on the left-hand side under the workspace, we can see that now there's an entity called dashboard. The cool thing about dashboards, or one of them, is that we can drag things around, we can make them bigger, we can make them smaller, however we need them to be, just by clicking and dragging around. Now, the dashboards, if you click on one, it's going to take you to the report and the page that the dashboard was created from. So I can then get back to my dashboard by clicking Van Arsdale, and I've got my dashboard back. So let me move this guy over, put some market share up there. And if I click on it, I can still hover over it, and I can still, kind of interact with it that way. But once you click on it, it's going to take you to the actual report itself. And so we've pinned a bunch of things to the dashboard. If we go then to the by manufacturer page, we can click the down arrow. We can filter on Van Arsdale. Let that populate. So now we've filtered on Van Arsdale. And so the manufacturer slicer went ahead and collapsed right there. Now we're going to go ahead and pin this gauge to the visual. I'm going to do the same thing, pin. Where do we want it to go? We want it to go to the Van Arsdale visual. And now if we go to that dashboard, we can see that the gauge dashboard is on there. If we go back to the report, we've got our revenue of 1 billion. I want you to pay attention to me unselecting Van Arsdale. So now we've got revenue of 2 billion. But then when I go back to the dashboard, we're seeing revenue for just 1 billion. And that's because the dashboard will keep the filters that you have set on the visuals before you pinned them. So if you want to see something specific or something slightly different on your dashboard than the default report, you can set the filters and then pin that. You can also, on this visual, I just clicked the ellipsis at the top. We can edit the details. We can also delete the tile. If I click on edit details, it's got revenue, past year sales. I can actually change that and put Van Arsdale in. So now I've given myself that visual clue within the Power BI dashboard to tell me how was this filtered? How was this done before? So the Van Arsdale filter is applied to each of the tiles, and all of the visuals are there that we've gone ahead and pinned. And again, you can pin them, you can play with them. The dashboard, you can create multiple dashboards. You can have unique and independent dashboards. It really is the powerhouse of providing the consumers the ability to massage and manipulate the data that we needed to. So let's organize this a little bit more. So we've got our map. Let's move it. We want the market share. I'm going to move that down just a little bit and move the map down, move the revenue over. And at this point, it's kind of hard to tell what this dashboard is for. We made a change to that. So at the top, and there we go. Under the edit menu at the top, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a tile. And I'm going to add a tile that is an image. And what I want to add for the, I've already saved the image. If you're following along in the lab notes, it's there. It's a little bit too long for me to read out, but I'm going to put the image in as the URL, and I'm going to click apply. And now we've got our Van Arsdale logo that we can put at the top of our dashboard, and that we can build the rest of the structure. Oh, clicked on it. Let me go back to it. And we can build the rest of the structure around what we've put in there for the image. So under the edit options, you've got a dashboard theme. We can look at and set up a mobile view for the dashboard as well, like we did inside of Power BI. We can set up the mobile view for the dashboard, and it gives us a similar interface with a similar set of controls. If I wanted to bring our gauge up, and you see that it's helping me with the layout. It's helping me to decide on the phone view, and now I've created the phone view for the particular dashboard, and then I can go back to the web view in the upper right hand corner. So when you go to the phone view, or you go to the report dashboard on your phone, it'll use the layout that you had created there. All right, so now we're getting into some of the cooler features of how we're going to use our dashboard. So we've got our dashboard set up, and above the logo, we've got ask a question about your data. And let's do that. Let's ask a question about our data. I'm going to click in here, and it's going to bring me to the Q&A. And again, there's some already questions that it already had kind of figured out, and it's going to make a suggestion for you. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start asking a question. Van Arsdale market share by country. I spelled Van Arsdale wrong. Van Arsdale market share by country. So here is the Van Arsdale market share by country. It went out there, it found it, it decided this is a good visual for it to look at, and I could go ahead and pin this visual right now back to my dashboard. So I just went in, asked a question, got a visual, and then here's Van Arsdale market share by country that it just found. And it went in and it decided on a visual for me, and it has created that visual for us. And we can go back to that ask question, and we could ask it, get a little bit more in depth. Van Arsdale market share by country as a tree map, as I spell tree map wrong. So now we've got Van Arsdale market share as a tree map, and we could add that, and we could pin that in as well. And that's the power of the natural language queries, is that we can then just ask questions of our data, and then we can add it to our dashboard. We can do what we need to do with it. It can help us get better insights. So if we go back to our dashboard, there's another way to get into insights, and we look at our line chart on the insights, and we click on the ellipsis at the top. We can click on View Insights, and when we uploaded the data, Microsoft did some analysis on it as we uploaded into the Power BI service side, and that analysis gave us other insights that are specific. So if we want revenue by manufacturer, if we want to look at Van Arsdale sales and revenue, again, there's revenue by country as a different type of chart, and revenue by year. There's revenue by year and manufacturer groups. If we like that one, we can go ahead and pin that to our dashboard as well. So we can take a data set and we can force additional information into our dashboard through the natural language queries. So let's go back to our report. And again, the bookmarks that we created are available to us inside of here. And you can also add additional bookmarks here, personal bookmarks. But I'm going to tell it to show more bookmarks. And then I'm going to go ahead and just click on View. And here are the different bookmarks that have been created within this particular report. So I can just click on the same as we were doing inside of the Power BI desktop. I'm just clicking and working through a series of bookmarks that I set up that have different values for them and can go to different pages in the report, can highlight and call things out. And if we, you can use that to walk through a Power BI report during a presentation and see live up-to-date data during that process. All right, so we've been working, I'm going to close the bookmarks. With inside of the Power BI service, we've been working with the report. But if you remember, we've got both a report, we've got a data set, we've added the dashboard. The data set lives separately, and this is something I like to call out in any Power BI training that I'm doing. If you're clicking on the report, you see the report and it's under the report header. Sometimes, because the data set has the same name, people will accidentally click on the data set. The data set, you can build visuals against the data set in here as well, but this is not your report. Your report hasn't gone away. It's just that you're looking at the data set rather than the report. And it usually only happens a couple of times before people figure that out. But I've gotten a few calls on my report's gone, and it's no, you're actually looking at the data set and not the report itself. So there's a lot of different ways to visualize your data. Now, we were looking at asking a question and we were viewing data insights through the dashboard. You can also, since Microsoft automatically runs and does some insights for your data, you can get the quick insights, but it's from your data set. So if I click on the Van Arsdale report here, the ellipsis, I only get a couple of options. But if we're working with the data set, we get significantly more, and one of those options is to get quick insights. So now it's going through, it's searching for the insights that it could find, similar to when we were asking natural language questions, or we were searching for the insights within a particular visual. But at this point, it's going to look for all of your data set. And then when you click on View Insights, it's going to load these that it has come up with. When I say it, machine learning, algorithms, all on the back end. We didn't really have to do anything. It's just looking at the data and saying, hey, here's a piece of information. So if we're looking at count by city or units versus top competitors, revenue by count of city, count of region, past year sales, we went in and since we had built that measure, it was able to do insights against past year sales. And it's there's a lot that you can do in here in terms of looking at your data, and it's not just the single report that you are looking at. So the last piece that we have is the building a dashboard and sharing. We went through the building a dashboard a little bit already. Sort of the last step that we are going to talk about from this side of things is within the Power BI service and how we can collaborate and then do the distribution side of things. So I'm going to go back into Power BI and I'm going to go back to my home and I'm signed into the Power BI service. And on the left-hand side, we've got our workspaces and we've got the workspace that I created. And I'm going to highlight my workspace by clicking on it so that I know that I'm inside of it. And let's get, all right, let me go workspace. Okay, I'm going to get to it a different way. So I'm going to highlight, or I'm going to call out the workspaces. I'm going to go to my dyad workspace and I'm going to click on the ellipse that's next to the dyad workspace. And there's workspace settings and workspace access. I'm going to start with workspace access, which we had covered, where I've added myself in under workspace access. You can also add groups and different types of user groups, and you can add them in the same sort of way. A contributor can add, edit, delete content within the workspace, whereas a member can do everything a contributor can do. So a contributor can add, edit. An admin can do everything a member can do, and a viewer can only interact with the data stored in the workspace. So it's the hierarchy is contributor, member, administrator. So it's laid out right here. Excuse me. So that's how you can get into that when you're working within your workspaces and you need to add members to it. So we've added me as a user. And what we need to do now is we need to share this content. So as I was saying before, a workspace is like a Microsoft Teams team. It's got restricted access and who can get to the stuff. you can take a workspace and you can publish it as an app. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. It's one app per workspace, and you get to decide what you want. If I don't want the Van Arsdale dashboard in my app, it doesn't have to be there. I'm going to go ahead and include it because I want to have those each in there. And so you can select which reports and which dashboards you want available within your app. And then it's just as simple as clicking Create App. So I clicked Create App in the upper right-hand corner. And so Power BI Service is going through the process of updating and creating the app. I'm going to go ahead and refresh, see if it's finished creating the app yet. It has not. Let me click Create App one more time. There we go. That's what it was supposed to do when I clicked Create App. So once I clicked Create App, what I have now is how do I want the app? What do I want for its description? This is a test app. And if you have an external support site you want to use, you can upload a logo that you might want to use. You can change the colors of how the app theme color will work. There's contact information that can be part of the app. Do you want the specific person who published it? Do you want the contacts that are listed from the workspace? Or if you want a specific individual to be the contact information that gets published along with that app. Now, I'm using the term publishing an app, and it's an app within Power BI. We're not publishing an app out to AppSource or anything like that. It's a specific collection of objects from within the workspace that we're publishing out to be available as an all-enclosed unit without necessarily having to go into a specific workspace. So from a navigation standpoint, you can have specific links to parts of the app, so somebody could link directly to a single report, or you can have selection as part of it. This gets a little in depth with what you can do from a publishing standpoint. And but this is how you can set up the navigation and where you can get specific links to get within a page of a report. And then the permission side. So again, you have complete control if you want the app to be available for the entire organization, or you want the app to be a specific or be available for specific individuals or groups. Again, I'm going to put my email address in here. And so it's made available to specifically me. And then there's some options. You can allow users to connect to the app's underlying data set using the build permission. You can allow users to make a copy of the reports in the app. I tend to recommend that we turn these off if you're publishing an app to just end user consumers. But if your users have a need to get to the underlying data source, you can easily turn that on. And then at this point, I'm just going to tell it to publish the app. Oh, show specific individuals or groups. That's kind of an odd error message. I'm going to hit F5 to refresh again. Description. I'm just going to show the app publisher. Navigation is the same. Permissions, I'm going to go ahead and add me, uncheck these guys, and then go ahead and publish the app. So when I publish an app that has a large distribution, it may take 5 or 10 minutes is what it's telling me. This doesn't have a large distribution, so now I can go to this app. So when you're inside of an app working, you don't have all of the same Power BI stuff on the left-hand side to get to different workspaces. It's a focused app on what you've decided to publish with it. I can go to my Dyad final report, and I can see here's all my report functionality as I was expected to be, and it's now published as an app inside of Power BI. Now, if I go back over to Power BI, and I've got my entire workspace here, and I look in where the apps are. Here's the app that I just created and went to. I can delete this app out. So I've gone ahead and deleted it, but now I can search for this app again. I can click on Get Apps. And what Get Apps will do is there's apps that are company specific and there's apps that are organizational apps like we have listed here. There's template apps that you can pull down and look at, or you can look at all apps and search through and get apps that other organizations have created that you would be able to use. I was logged in as the person who created the app, so I actually deleted the app as a whole. Let me go back in and update the app. That's all there, and I'm going to update and close. And now if I go back over to apps, let's search for Dyad. Here's my Dyad app that I had created. And so accessing it and adding it to your apps that you use is as easy as searching for it, clicking on it. Depending upon the admin rights that you have set up, you can also force the apps out. This particular demo environment doesn't allow me to click the force install of the apps from the end users. So if I go in, I'm just going to navigate back to the app from my workspace. It seems to be running a little bit slow. You saw some of those weird error messages I'm publishing. I don't know if it's my connection or what's going on, but we're getting some oddities there. So we've published the Dyad app. We've given people the access to that app, and again, that really, if you're following along inside of the lab documentation, there is the next section would be on accessing it from a mobile device. That's something that we're going to have to do on our own since I'm not able to display a mobile screen during this particular session. So at that point, I'm going to switch back over and let's move on to the Q&A session.
All right, thank you, Butch. Please enter any questions you have into the comment box and we'll address them live. We did have a question earlier on histograms. Mike, are you available to fill in a little bit more on what we learned about histograms?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to handle histograms. You can use the native charting within Power BI, the visualizations, and just use code behind to kind of group your data, depending on how good you are with that type of coding, or if you have a data source that's coming from something like SQL Server, that you could build a stored procedure or a view to group your data. The other option is there is a custom visualization that you can pull off of App Source that will help you to group and bin that data the way you would want to do it.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, we do have a couple questions coming in here. I'll start with Jacobs. He has a general question. I'm a business analyst that works primarily in Excel PowerPoint, though he leans heavily on Power Query for his work in Excel. Are there any additional resources you can point him towards as far as practicing building dashboards and on running presentations with Power BI as opposed to PowerPoint?
Definitely, I would look through the Microsoft documentation on that on the docs.microsoft.com. it's if you've worked with Microsoft for a long time, we've all sort of gone through that stage where the documentation wasn't as thorough as we would like. They have done amazing things when it comes to Power BI from that side. There's the entire MS Learn program that you can go through. There's 7 or 8 additional hours of specific Power BI training that will dive deeper into that as well. That's where I go to for any additional learning or when people are asking out for me.
Thanks. And do reports have to be published in the cloud for others to view, or can they be published on a local server?
Well, they can be. So if you're using just the Pro account, or if you're using just the Power BI desktop, then it has to be published out into Power BI service. There is the possibility of having that stuff to be more local, and it's not the cheapest way to go with it. Power BI desktop is only a single user thing. If you want somebody else to look at the same report, you have to send them the PBIX file that's created, the one that we kept saving, and they could open it inside of their version of Power BI desktop. But there isn't a way to like publish it and view it outside of the service.
There's one other way to do it. It's just not interactive, and that's by saving it as a PDF. But that is not interactive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can save it. You can print it, and you could email a screenshot of it to them. But yeah, again, like Mike said, that's not interactive, and really the best option is to publish it to the service if you need multiple people to be able to interact with it.
Thank you both. And Bob is asking when the recording will be available. That will be available by tomorrow afternoon, and all attendees here will be sent the link to the recording directly to their email. And we have one more question here from Andrew. Can formulas and sorting be used to have one row interact with the next? Example, you have 3 different timestamps. Can you create a new column and formula that shows the time between timestamps?
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yep, and that gets deeper into the DAX side of things, and we really wanted to keep from going too deep into the actual programming language. Again, MS Learn, Microsoft Docs, there's a lot of documentation on how to do it with sample files and things that you can run through. But really, it's going to take place in one of two places. It's either going to be something that's done inside of Power Query, then that's what we worked with first, where we were pulling the data in and doing the transformation with the steps, or it could be done on the DAX side itself within the Power BI desktop interface. You can do that with writing the DAX code, or you can do it inside of Power Query.
Thanks, and this might be a follow-up on the previous question. Nancy asked, documentation for DAX?
It's in the same place. It's Microsoft Docs that you would be able to get to for getting specifics on DAX. There's a lot of resources in terms of books and things that you can buy as well to get deeper into DAX. But there is a MS Learn for DAX that takes you through the basics of it as well, if that's something that you want to get involved in and dive deeper in.
Thanks so much, Butch, and thank you all for your patience in answering the questions today. Butch, do you think we have time to go into the 5th lab here?
We did. We went through the 5th lab.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're ready to conclude here. I don't see any more questions, but if you do come up with a question, you can feel free to reach out to us at us-marketing@columbusglobal.com. And as a reminder, please do fill out the short survey at the end of this webinar to provide feedback to help us improve. That concludes our workshop today. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.